heart in the west. You better jump back, baby. You're the girl I love the best.
The record really began in the summer of '88 when we were touring in the United States on the Non-Stop Go tour. We were finding as a band that we were becoming more and more of a sort of comfortable unit of people, both socially and musically, and we were having a great time. We were working very hard in that very hot summer, and on the days off, you normally find that band members kind of disappear into the streets and into the lives and loves of America or wherever it is, Hong Kong. But we decided to stay together and rent studios and book studios and work on new material. And that's quite a sort of a remarkable thing to do when you've been traveling for 200 days. So the whole thing began at that point, and it proceeded through till the tour finished in December '88, and by mid-January of '89 we were in the studio recording. This time, to record the album was much more immediate. The actual cause and effect was much more obvious, and we were dealing we were losing all the proliferations. We were just getting down to the brass tacks. We were writing in combinations so that Charlie and Doug may work together, and Chris and Phil may, and I might come in and just do some work amongst them all. So it was a whole sort of melting pot of ideas, and in consequence, I think the record or the performances have all improved. And there's no way that Manic Nirvana can be pigeonholed as to being a member of a particular style of music or a particular genre. It's just plantisms. It's the part of the extension of Led Zeppelin, really. It's my contribution to Led Zeppelin 10 years later. Lyrical content, really, and the inspiration to sing or to write. First of all, my life and my emotions, my whole sort of being is a checkerboard of high spots and low spots, of good ideas and absolutely terrible mistakes. And the circumstances that I sometimes find myself in are ones that I have to wriggle to get out of, saving my face if I can at all. So you do get the sort of odd song of love departed, and I'm still running down the block on a skateboard trying to bring this love back. And there's an amount of humour because I do know what a fool I am, you know, and I do kind of enjoy the fool in me. I can't really be angry at him because, you know, I've known him for so long. He's a loony, an idiot at least. So lyrically, there's fun. And there's this kind of stuff that is serious, but you don't know whether it's serious or just a little bit on the edge of parody. I don't really think that lyrics, if you have the whole shooting match in front of you when you take your music away with you, and so you can sit with the headphones on and hear what I'm talking about or comprehend, then it's rather like having a tape of a Charles Dickens story and reading it at the same time. Maybe not quite the same, but I much prefer the intrigue or the mystery of trying to check out what's going on in a song. And I think because I try and make the music a little, or the lyrics a little more ambiguous, it gives people, like, it can take 2 or 3 years to get the picture. Phil Johnston was the first, and probably is, at least personality-wise, the most impressive, or formidable would be a better term. He played guitar in bands around London and made a record, quite a famous non-hit on Stiff Records, which was a real hip label in England at one point. Doug Boyle is a guitarist who has been in a few bands around England, but when I found him, he was working in the complaints department of a travel agency. So when I rang him up, he thought I was complaining about the toilet facilities in the St. Lucian Hotel. He's a remarkable player, and his contribution as a character is phenomenal to the band, both visually on stage and visually off stage once the slammers get going. and he's known as Slammer Boyle, or he's got quite a few. He's the conscience of the band, and we have to go to him and ask him if it's okay if we do this or that. That might be a little risque, and he stands almost and takes confession from us. Charlie Jones comes from a band from Bristol called Violent Blue, and when Phil Scragg didn't join us on the road, we were looking for somebody who had the kind of straight-ahead approach that Charlie's got. No frills, and very, not practical, but adamant. Very good addition to the gang. Chris Blackwell really is the kind of oarsman and the helmsman of the band. He kind of controls everything, both on stage and with being in command of like a module where all the samples are triggered and the actual power of the group is kicked along. His contribution musically now is growing to such a degree that he plays guitar on certain tracks on the record. He and I wrote Tie Down on the Highway. He just arrives with the whole track and says, can you do something with this song? Or this, can you write a lyric to this? He's very, I suppose, professionally adventurous. He really wants to do all sorts of things. He's got his own studio set up and he works on all sorts of other projects for himself. I mean, the drum loop that he created on Watching You on Manic Nirvana is stunning, you know? And he just does that, brings it along, and here, what can we do with this? Yeah. I want to be a part of a band. I'm not that strong, nor am I, nor do I want to be so lonely, you know? Hurting Kind is, I mean, it's a natural tune to kick off a project, a tape or a CD or whatever these things now, the term that's now going to go from record to CD or whatever. It's the perfect opener because it is so punchy, and it immediately tells people where I'm coming from without any excuses. It's kind of taking rockabilly roots from 57, 58, when rock and roll was not the manipulated beast that it now is. And it takes it and links it to some kind of 90s fun, if you like, you know? Right down to the heavy breathing in the middle and the bridge, you know? Which, you know, and even Prince is somewhere underneath there saying, damn. Is he? Damn, yeah. When I first started playing with bands, I really, I'd obviously wanted to be Gene Vincent. I wanted to dress all in black and slink around the microphone. It's quite remarkable how many people have been Gene Vincent since. Billy Idol, Iggy Pop, now Adamant, you know. But it was mainly, I spent a lot of time being influenced, if you like, not only by black blues from Chicago, but by the whole social movement, the parallel movement for society, the whole bohemian trip, which was reading Kerouac books and Sartre and Camus, hanging around the jazz clubs and the folk clubs, hearing some guy wailing a tenor sax. Society really beckoned to me, and really my early musical education came from that environment. I was exposed to some incredible music, and therefore the groups that I was in initially were all totally blues-based. I could see that the audience had sort of fringed jeans and pipes, and all looked a bit like Rick Ocasek in Hairspray, you know, say hey far out. And then I found that you could actually do this at a dance hall, and when you leave the pubs and the clubs and you ended up in dance halls, you had a different kind of audience. Pencil skirts, high heels, you know, nice hair, smelt good, but you had to change the act a little bit. So I did, and have done ever since, and just lent on the blues, borrowed, plagiarized, taken whatever I could.
Yeah.
And most of my sort of success, really, as a solo artist has been with more ballad-like things, and yet that's the furthest point away from my personality, really.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about the idea of continuing the career by repetition is not really a fair thing for me to start spouting on about, because, I mean, my vocal style, I try and change quite a lot of what I do to suit my own imagination. I can't be seen in the middle of this game to be repeating myself when for all these years, you know, whatever success I've had has come by a more realistic musical approach, I think. I've kind of hedged around certain parts of my musical personality and shuffled by them, pretending that they don't exist. The old Zeppelin isms, or whatever they are. Now, whatever this time is for me, and its success is, it would be great if it was a big success, but if it's not, tough. But whatever it is, this thing is, this is the best I could wish for, especially after all this time of fooling around. To get to this point, it's quite an achievement.
Nobody's got the mind.